Hello there, you lovely people. Welcome back to the Fallout Bar here at Online Darts. Grand Slam day number 7. Myself, Jack Gobagawa, joined by the one and only Mr. Lee Boyce. Yeah, I can see you in the chat room, Dan. Don't worry, we'll get to you not very soon. We're going to drag it out as long as possible so we don't have to talk about you fluking that. How are you, Mr. Boyce?
Barney on me. Barney on me. Yeah, all good. What a night. What a night of darts. One thing I will say, obviously, we'll go into the games in a minute, but I think no one would have predicted that many leads of darts tonight. The fact that we went so deep in both that just produced then another sensational night of darts. At one stage, all 4 of them would have been favourites to win that day. Because all of them had a lead that justified that. It was just a great night. To me, the Grand Slam's quite low down in the sort of tournament list, but this week has delivered.
Someone's just posted, I think it was Weekly Darts Cast, they just posted the 2020 quarterfinals, and they were pretty impressive as well. But I've been chatting to Helen Chamberlain this evening. It's like, it's easy to get lost in the hyperbole, but this could genuinely be the best Grand Slam ever, given the levels that we've had in the group stages, a couple of surprises in there, and the performances that we've seen in races to 10s, and now races to 16s with 2 more cracking games set up for tomorrow. Big good evening to everybody in the chat room. Kieran, Jamie, James, Dan, Bob, Letter to Voltaire, Daniel's in, Tommy's in, Nolty Jackson, Tommy's in. Who else is in? HJV's in. Good to see you, buddy. Fabian Balzer, Yankee Clippers in, Jeez is in, Daniel's in, Barry's in. Before we go any further, we're no doubt going to talk about it a little bit later on. I'd just like to pop this up on screen. I'm not apologising. You will not get an apology from me at all about the predictions last night when we get on to that bit. Job done. Right, that's it. You ain't getting one. If that's what you're here for, to look at me grovel, go away. Because 20 past 10 on a Friday night, I ain't begging nobody.
Leave it till about 10 to 11, and then maybe he starts to then. Trust me, as the night progresses.
No. I will. Me and my Lucasade will be absolutely fine. Thank you very much. Harry, we will definitely come back to that point a little bit later, but I'll flash out now. That double top to go 15-13 in front. I was having lots of conversations in that leg, and I said very much the same. However, we start in the other quarterfinal for tonight. Helps if I've actually got what's gone on tonight up on my screen, wouldn't it? Still Googling how to spell Conor McGregor so I don't mess that up. We start with a 31-leg classic between Michael Smith and Joe Cullen. More consecutive legs won on the spin for Michael Smith to get over the line in this one, Boise. But just what a great game of darts this was.
Yeah, I know I mentioned it with like all 4 players at one stage being in front and being favourite in their game, but this one really did toss and turn with such a good performance early on by Michael Smith, numbers being hit, and the fact that Joe Cullen was still with him at 6-4 early on probably showed the signs of the levels that Joe Cullen could still produce. The fact then he was able to spin it round and go into the back end of the game and be 15-13 up, but what bottle. And I know it gets associated normally with the word job after it when it's Michael Smith as a bottle job, a lot of people tend to say. But my God, what bottle that is at 15-13 to go 15 on throw, 11 against the throw and 15 on throw. Cullen under pressure has got to throw a 12 darter in any of those leads to win. Otherwise he loses, which is what happens. But we was on about it earlier on in the week. I can't remember if it was last night with yourself or Dan around, a 16, 17, 18 darter under pressure is fantastic. The fact that Bully Boy threw in a 15, 11 and 15 was just incredible at that time. And that showed what bottle that guy's though.
Yeah, I mean, look, Cullen probably played the better darts through a large part of this game to stick with Michael Smith, who went off like an absolute train off the tracks, is the phrase I'm going to use. The 170 was absolutely massive. He just kept landing finishes and that counter punch, if you like, from Joe Cullen to stay within touch. And once he'd weathered that storm from Michael Smith, you sort of started to believe this would be Joe Cullen's day. Michael Smith threw pretty much everything he had at Joe Cullen in that early stage, couldn't shake him off, and still found himself behind a few legs later. But as you said, those last 3 legs really did spin it for Michael Smith.
Yeah, they did, and it was just that the manner of the performance, even if, I guess, if someone is sort of writing down there, you expect 31 lengths between Michael Smith and Joe Cullen, you expect a lot of high scores. Do you expect 44 140 pluses and 25 180s? Probably not, because that number is just ridiculous in 31 legs of darts. Also, for Joe to be on over 50% at that format, and yes, Bully Boy dropped off towards the end, but for a large part of that was also over 50%. It just showed the level that these two are at and why they are two of the best in the world right now. And they are, we're not going to go into the sort of chat of the Premier League, but they tend to look at that being sort of the Elite Eight. But these two are right in the midst for that, because what these can do under pressure and what they can do over the London format just sets it up perfectly for the World Championship in just a few weeks' time.
It does indeed. Finishing stats superb from both. The 170. I don't even know where to go with this. It was just solid, wasn't it? They played at a good pace. There was no excessive emotions. They're both relatively young, hitting their peak perhaps, and both still have plenty of darts ahead of them. You've predicted Michael Smith to win this tournament, which I thought was a little bit nonsense at the start of the Grand Slam, and I'm still not convinced. But as results keep unfolding, especially after what we're going to discuss in a minute and the second semi-final, I can't see any other outcome but Michael Smith in the final once again, which means he's going to get chances, and over a longer distance, he's got to get there soon, hasn't it?
That now worries me, because last night you was having strong words with me and Dan and saying anyone who thinks it's not Derwin Price and MVG in the final is talking absolute nonsense. And now you're saying exactly the same about Michael Smith, which worries me massively now for Saturday and for Sunday, because of that comment. But the fact he keeps getting there, and when he was getting to finals, the first 2 or 3 finals, I would probably say they really hurt. You could tell they really hurt. But more recently, when he's getting to the back end of these tournaments, it seems like it hits him for a few minutes, and then it's like, I'm coming back. I will get one. I'm not giving up. I will get a title sooner or later. And keep putting yourself in these positions, and, the coming through that. And I know Bridgie mentioned it to Smithy about the amount of times he's been on the other end of this result. The fact that he's now on the right end just shows where that Michael Smith game is right now, and he's if he doesn't go on and win this week, he's certainly got to be one of the favourites for the players and the worlds, just coming up to the form he's in at the moment, not just with his scoring, but his biggest part of his game this week's been his finishing, not his scoring. And how often have we said that about Bully Boy?
Not very often indeed. I think there was a line that he said in his post-match TV interview. We're going to play a clip from his post-match press conference afterwards, his post-match TV interview, where he said, for any kids out there, it's just constantly looking forward to the next game. And there is probably no player in the game that has more experience of that right now, that has the ability and the mentality to just pick himself up and go again and keep trying to get that first title. And I suppose if or when that does happen, his response to a defeat in the future, knowing he's got one in the back pocket as well, is going to be even more frightening for the rest of the field.
It is. It seems to be every interview, or the majority of the interviews he's having, he's like, when I win that first one, I'm going to forget about it and focus on moving forward. Which for me is he keeps saying it. 1, I don't believe it. And 2, I'm not sure it's the right mentality. You want that winning mentality and that feeling that you can achieve it. And I would sort of be telling him, don't get that first, and then remind everyone a bit MVG light, and maybe Derwin Price more recently going, yeah, I'm the world champion, or yeah, I just won that last one, and sort of putting that pressure on people. And yes, it can come onto yourself sometimes, but it's just a very, very dangerous Michael Smith. The only thing that probably is the worry, as is with all 4 when it comes to it on Sunday, is we know how brutal that Sunday session is. The fact that you have to play such 2 London format games over that day, it can be very difficult, but that might actually play in favour of Michael Smith, because he hasn't got London to think about being in the final. If he gets there, and he's still got one more game to win before he does, but he hasn't got too much time to mull over being in that final, and he can just go with them.
He can. Right, let's hear then from Michael Smith in his post-match press conference.
It was the 15:30 when he hit some at 180 and then some and then 180 to leave double four. And I checked the 70 out. I knew he wouldn't have a good leg, and he could have proved me wrong and had a good leg, but it just showed up there. He would have thought like probably the way my tops have been going, he was expecting a shot. Yeah, I pulled it out of my ass from somewhere and it went in, and I just knew if I could break him then 15-40 without a bad leg, I'd win the match. It's just keep him straight, keep him steady, and just reset yourself. It's a one-leg shootout, and yeah, I made
that got off quicker than I was expecting.
Where did he say he pulled it from?
No idea. I'm too busy arguing with the Raymond van Barneveld fan club via WhatsApp.
Is that Jar?
It is Jar. Hello, mate. In fact, you know what? Before we even talk about it, I had to. I just had to. The Barney alarm has been played in a non-Pro Tour environment because the man has beaten Gerwyn Price in a knockout game at the Aldersley Leisure Village. That is impossible. Or has proven to be impossible for the last couple of years. Barney, in his return to PDC a year later, look, it's not been, by far, it's not really been the return that everybody expected from Barney. Doesn't play well enough on the floor events to put himself in these TV tournaments anywhere near as often enough. But he just loves this event, doesn't he?
Yeah, and let's be honest, no one in their right mind would have predicted Barney to win the game tonight. Yeah, I've seen that comment in the chat room, Dan. But it's not just Barney beating Price, it's the manner that he's beat Price. The fact he was so far behind, and he started really well, but still found himself in a situation where he was behind, and he fought back. And I've never seen, and I'm sure there may be another time, but I've never seen Barney enjoy a Wharton as much as he did that first one. The smile from when he was first standing at the top before the Wharton, he was just enjoying every single moment of it. And yes, we know what Price's story light is at Aldersley, but Barney's got his own history in the Midlands, and it seems like he wants to add to that, because that was just quality from Raymond today, and few people wrote him off. Two of them are on your screen right now, one of which I could read out the messages that I've received early on in the game, but I won't, Dob, that was still saying this isn't going to continue. But what I will say...
Me in the WhatsApp going, yeah, don't get sucked in.
Yeah, but what I will say is, we would have been, obviously we was having them messages early on, but we wouldn't be the only people. The majority of the dying world, just because what we've seen recently of Barney, would have been saying, this is great, the performance early on, yes, showing a bit of emotion, but can he do that over 30 legs, or roughly 30 legs? The fact that he was able to was just stunning. It was just, as I said, rolling back the years for Raymond, and that smile said an awful lot, didn't he?
Yeah, look, I think you nailed it about the walk-on. I don't think you see him that happy. But I think in his mind, that was an absolute free roll to him, because he did not expect to go and produce that or to go and get that win. He was like, I'm just going to take this in. I'm not qualifying for enough TV events at the minute. We'll be at the World's Players' Championship. Just get used to being back up on stage, big TV cameras again in big matches, and try and use it as motivation for later in the season. I genuinely don't think, deep down, Barney thought he could win that match tonight. At all. Don't get me wrong, 5-time world champion, and he's probably got a slightly different mentality to me, full stop. But given where he's been for the last few years and everything else, over that distance, I genuinely don't think Barney would have gone into that match believing he's got a serious chance of beating Gezi. An outside chance if Gezi doesn't turn up. To defy a 101 average from Price, who's at 41% on his doubles, 11 180s and whatever else, I genuinely don't think he would have seen that coming at all. And to be trailing 8-3, I can't lie, I was sat there very, very smug about my prediction last night, saying it was going to be 16-7. I did not see a way back into this match.
Yeah, well, I can see part of what you're saying. I think obviously every player does in with the mindset of winning, but it was a bit of we'll say more of a free hit. No one was expecting it. It's probably the right way of putting it. But when he's 8-3 down and then he wins 11 out the next 13 to go 14-10 in front, that for me is when Barney started to believe he could win, because we saw a drop. We saw a level of drops. We saw a couple of 60s. I think we saw maybe even a couple of 41s or 45 in there. And we saw that sort of drop. But he then realised there was an enjoyment back there. And when he was leaving certain finishes, he left 170 and 156. And he was just sort of smiling to himself in the back, thinking it looked a little bit like he was playing it as an exhibition, in the sense of he was just, I'm leaving shots because, I can give these crowd a massive roar and really get up and down. There was just so much about it that was great to see for people who have seen Barney for 10, 20 years doing great things. I think we all got to a part where we probably thought that we wasn't going to see that level of performance from Barney over that London format. And let's be honest, Derwin Price was one of them early in the week who says that, yes, he beat him over a shorter format, but that London format is a completely different game.
Yeah, I still just didn't see it come in. And it was mentioned earlier, and I've got to bring up that moment. 14-11, Price wins, hold, big break on Barney, doesn't react, then a big hold in which Barney has darts to break again and lets out the roar. And at that point, I still only saw one winner. And at 14-11, if Barney wins the next and goes 15-11, fine. I can start believing at that point. A 4-leg gap, one away, completely different. But when Gezi takes out those 3 legs on the spin and lets out that roar at exactly the right time, puts pressure on the Barney throw next, I'm like, this is where he will crumble. Because the last 2 legs, he'd been poor as well. He'd been very poor to let that happen. The trebles just weren't flowing. He started dropping low with the darts. He started changing his pace a little bit on the throw. But the 71 that Barney took out, 13-18 tops. I had 4 different chats going at once going, this goes low. It was just pulling it all day, every day in my eyes. And to hold it together in that moment, to reach 15 was that sucker punch on Gezi. Just too much to do at that point. The next leg was superb from Barney once again. Do you know what? If he'd finished on his signature 156, that is the proper fairy tale, isn't it? I love this line. You only get fairy tales in sport. And so if he'd done it on his signature shot, that would have been truly ridiculous. But a sensational performance from Barney to knock Gezi out on this stage. I mean, let's have a quick word about Gezi, because it's not a terrible performance. 101.78 over 29 legs, 40% on the doubles. He's just been out-timed a little bit, if you like, but silverware is becoming a bit of an issue for Derwin Price right now.
Yeah, and one thing, looking at the 2 games as well, I know we've criticised the fact that you can have that repeat game quite early, but Derwin Price lost to Barney 5-4 early on the week, averaging 105.99. That dropped to 101.78 today, but actually, when you think about 9 leads to 29 leads, that drop is probably to be expected. There's not a huge difference in performance there. The manner of 180s on Derwin Price is similar on par. And that day, Derwin Price played very, very well, but we just saw some magic from Barney. I think the same today. It's just, it was the right shot, right time. Crowd had a positive impact on Barney. And to be honest, there was the one, I think it was 11-10 when Price sorted out the bid, and there was a few boos. But then other than that, the crowd didn't play a part negatively. And then for me, I think that was very good. And that is what a crowd should be doing. If you've got a favourite, support them and they will give you moments. And Barney near enough gave you a neon perfect moment if you'd have finished 156. But to Derwin Price, that has probably got to be the worry, because this is his tournament. The past 4 years, this is, they will take the COVID one, this has been his tournament. Aldersley has been his sort of home game. He doesn't lose in knockout stages. He's just that good. And the fact he's not been able to stay off the line when he would have been strong favourite in this game does just raise them question marks around when he wins the next trophy. We had similar conversations around Michael. It was more about getting that one and then more will start coming. And I think it is just that with Owen Price, he's not playing bad. He's not playing bad at all.
He's had over 100 as a tournament average in a format where you've got to go potentially 19 legs, 30 legs in the knockout, as well as averaging over 101 in that defeat to Barney in the group, beating Dave Chisnell, who is one of the most informed players in the world right now. Like, he's not played terribly, but the frustration of not picking up trophies right now will be getting to him a little bit, I think.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And you've got to think as well this week, he has survived. He's got through Chizzy, and he should have been out in that one. Chizzy missed 2 opportunities as well for Noppy. And it was just that it's just been a survival for Price, where normally you do see winners normally have that one game where they've survived maybe a match dart or a lead dart going into a throw. But Desi survived quite a lot this week. But tonight he didn't do an awful lot wrong.
No, but I guess part of that is pressure.
Yeah.
And part of that is reputation, and he's earned that over the last couple of years. I'm sat there going, well, I literally called out what Gezi would do when my brother sat there. I did the same with Van Gogh and the other night. I was like, Josh will lose this 10-8, be the plucky loser. It's just the way this sort of thing goes. He goes, what? Van Gogh wins 3 of the next 4. I was like, yeah, it's just one break and then it's job done. I was like, Barney, hold. Price, hold. Break, no emotion. Hold again, big roar, let him know you're there. And at that point, you just built up that reputation, that inevitability. And if we can see that coming from miles off as fans, and all right, I'd probably take a little bit more notice than most, but if we can see that sale of events unfolding before it even happens, and the players are aware of it as well. And when you hear that roar, and when you see that emotion from Gezi, and you think, actually, I've just had 2 off legs, he's built up that reputation of, right, this is what happens next. Gezi goes mad or gets to a last leg decider and he gets out in 4 visits, as he often tends to do. He's earned that as a reputation. So it still goes both ways, but it's just interesting to set. Right, let's hear from Barney, then we'll look ahead to tomorrow, and then we'll discuss anything else guys in the chat room want. As pretty short show tonight, but here is Barney.
Yeah, of course. If you win the if you beat the world number 1 twice in one tournament, hey, come on, what can you say? It's not a coincidence. Then he played awesome. I saw him 1.5 hours before the match. He went down to practice on his own, and downstairs before the match. And that's professional. And he's a top class player. He's an amazing. Wow, last 4 years he won this competition 3 times. If I can beat him, wow, come on.
We hear your old rival, Mr. Taylor's been on the phone giving you some encouragement as well.
He's there all the time, He's giving me text messages, you can do this, buddy, and I believe in you. And I really appreciate that. He doesn't need to do this, He's the best ever dart player in the world. And we had many fights, many games in the world, and he's behind me, and that's gives me an incredible good feeling. And I don't want to disappoint this man. I don't want to disappoint my family and my future wife. Wow, what a battle! And I'm so happy. You cannot describe in words how happy I am.
Interesting there from Barney mentioning Mr. Phil Taylor. I rate that, especially as I guess after this performance, Lee, for the last 2 years, you could have basically said that perhaps this wasn't the return to PDC you wanted for Barney, and we might see him in the World Seniors a little bit soon. After this performance, I don't think we're going to see him in the Seniors anytime soon, because there is a lot of people throwing out my least favourite words at this time of the year in the Premier League. I went a bit bold yesterday and was like, anybody that thinks this won't be Price versus MVG in the finals is a bit naive. Barney will not be in the Premier League. Even if he wins this event, he will not be in the Premier League. He just won't. So, right? I don't care about the commercial draw of Barney. He had too many chances before, and he rubbed up the wrong people. He rubbed up people the wrong way in doing so. The way that he left the sport, the way that he then returned. He basically got given that last year as a retirement gift from the PDC, and to return 12 months later irked an awful lot of people. Right? They're not about to just chuck that straight back at him, especially not in the new format where you've got to play 3 times in one night, lots of traveling, right? One good tournament from Barney does not bring back the 5-time world champion of 15 years ago.
The only thing I would say to it is the thought of him being in the Premier League for me is very, very, very early. this discussion will be completely different to Monday night if Barney's Grand Slam champion, because there is still a long way to go. I think anyone who wins a TV major or whatever you want to call it, one of the big events, one of the big further seats,
goes ahead of Danny Noppy in the pecking order as well.
Yeah, they have to be in that conversation, 100%. But for me, it's way too early on the basis of, yes, he's beat Derwin Price. It's a fantastic win, and to stop the run of Derwin Price at Alders Lake is huge. However, as we've seen plenty of times with people beating number one or beating MVG or beating Phil Taylor many years back, you've then got to follow that up. At the moment, he's not even in the Premier League conversation until he goes on and wins one. Because of where he is at the moment, if then over the next year we then consecutively is in semi-finals and finals, that's then sort of then in the Michael Smith bracket of not yet winning one but still in that conversation. Right now, Barney cannot be in the Premier League conversation until he goes on and picks up that title. All the marketing and all that sort of stuff, the commercial aspect. Yeah. There's another 8 players who can bring that as well. Yeah. We've seen that in his last year.
From a channel that are quite open with you guys watching about, it's not just about the darts when you go into the Premier League. For us to be sat here saying that Barney ticks those boxes but still won't be selected probably comes across a bit weird. It's not the message we've really given as a channel for the last 18 months or more. But I just think the way that his career or his first stint in the PDC came to an end before COVID and whatever, added to just the fact they've shrunk the field. We've seen them get a little bit frustrated with Gary Anderson this year. We've seen them get frustrated with Barney in the way that he left and whatever else. There isn't room for that sentimental pick anymore. Not in a shrunken field, not in an era where you've got players knocking on the door. You've got Luke Humphries up to wide number 5 without ever winning a TV title. You've got Marcus Smith sat at number 4 without doing the same, right? Appreciate glorified exhibition, whatever else. But I'm telling you all now, ginger mess. I'm telling you all now, you've got more chance of seeing Fallon Sherrock in the Premier League than you have Raymond van Barneveld. And she has had the worst year of her PDC career so far. Barney's having one of the better ones in the last 10 years.
Yeah. I just boot him out. I can still see him for everyone who just saw him jump in, we can still see him in the background.
Yeah.
And let me just say, it's not a pretty sight at all. But the one thing we should do, even though he's not on tonight, Dan Simpson deserves a little bit of credit, Dob. We did say we'd give it him because he did predict this Barney win. And I know he blew up our group chat. He's already been in the chat room quite a lot. But he was one of a few people who expected it to go that way tonight, so he deserves the credit, Dan. But that's it. We're moving on now. That's all you're getting.
Yeah. We've only said that because we think you've put it on in your pub, Dan, so we just want to get you a little name drop in your own venue. There we go, mate. That's for you. And to everybody out there, cheers. Hey. What you talk about, I'm not jealous at all. I'm just giving you it how it is, right? We know more than whatever you see. We've been involved in conversations in the past. I'm telling you now, the PDC were pissed at the way that Barney came back just a year later after basically handing him a full-time retirement tour on a plane. Right? He was never going to be in that Premier League in his final year. The best way for him to end his career was on that stage in the Netherlands, and he didn't. He came back due to commercial reasons. And then a year later, he's gone back through Q School. The reaction at that point was of genuine frustration and annoyance. Right? They're not about to hand out a golden ticket to one of the most lucrative TV events that they've got, no matter how commercially viable he is after this. Look, if he wins a Grand Slam and goes and gets a World semi-final, my opinion very well might change. But as it stands right now, I don't see that happening. Even if he beats Michael Smith, I don't see him winning the final because there's no way he's going to win. I just don't see him competing for 60 legs in the same day. He's in a much better shape than he was when he left the sport or when he left the PDC 2 years ago. But I still don't think he's got that in him. We've just said he can't do it over 30 legs, granted. But to do that over double the distance in the space of 5-6 hours, No chance. Not against two players of Michael Smith and potentially Michael Van Gerwen's quality. I just don't see it unfolding in that way. And it's not jealousy. It's not bias. It's none of that. It's just taking everything into account and not being caught up in the moment of the fact that Barney has just played a very, very good game in a tournament where he's looking very, very sharp. But to do this for 6 days in a year doesn't justify a spot in the Premier League.
Yeah, and I think what we also need to remember with the Premier League is, yes, there's the commercial aspect to it. However, right now there's only 8 players. And within the past 7-8 months, we've had calls for Noppy to be in for winning the UK Open, calls for Ross Smith to be in winning the European Championships. In the past 2 days, we've had quite a few people on social media and polls set up that Josh Rock should be in there. We've had now the conversation with Barney. Let's just say all four of them go in the Premier League. It doesn't leave much. And you've got to put in Price. You've got to put in MVG. You've got to put in MVG.
You've got to have Price, right, MVG and Michael Smith, because the top 4 rule still does stay. Format's staying the same for me. It's already been confirmed by Matt Porter. This year, they are rolling it over. It's definitely only 8 players. You can possibly, at this moment, take out James Wade and Rob Cross, but then you've got to have a conversation about Joe Cullen, last year's finalist, Johnny Clayton, Luke Humphreys, Dave Chisnell's playing well again. You've got Danny Noppert as UK Open champion, Ross Smith, European champion. Nathan Aspinall made the final of the last event and is still in this one as well. Let's not rule him out yet, especially with the players coming up as well. You've got potentially a shock winner at the Players' Championship to come and somebody going deep at the World Championship. Then you've got the commercial element of the Premier League being an advertising marketing tour. So Josh Rock, get him in early. Fallon or Bo or whoever might go and do bits as a female player at the World Championship or whatever else might still come. There's so much going on right now. It's not hate on Barney at all. I just think that Barney has had his opportunity. The same way Gary Anderson could go and make the semi-final or the final of the World Championship. Gary Anderson could probably go and lift the World Championship. And I'm still not sure Gary gets picked again this year because he's done it for so long and taken it for granted for a few years and just isn't interested. As a world champion in back-to-back years and nearly going 3 finals, whatever, Gary Anderson was a fantastic world champion. One of the best to ever carry the mantle in the way that he approached it, the way that he interviewed and carried that for a couple of years. But he's lost that drive now to go and do all that side of the game.
Yeah,
the sport needs to evolve a bit.
The only thing out of that you've just said, I agree with near enough all of it. The only thing I disagree with is if he goes on and win the World Championship, does that applies to anyone? You win the World Championship, you tend to be in the Premier League. But I know the point you was dead in the cross with Lando. One thing I think to go back to what he's done tonight and what he's done over the past 6 days has been fantastic. But when we talk about Premier League pits, it tends to be either going on and lifting a trophy or doing it over a year or two and showing that you're at capabilities. And for me, this conversation, I understand why we've had it tonight because there's a lot of talk on socials and everywhere around Raymond being back in the Premier League because of it. But
players left before the World, isn't it? So
the thing for me is this
building up towards normal selection time.
It shouldn't happen just yet. Let him go and play on Sunday. Let him go and potentially go and lift it. Does he's got a chance? I know you're saying doing it obviously to the lads is going to be difficult, and trust me, it definitely is for Raymond. But if he then goes on and lift it, then it's a completely different conversation. Because for me, a major TV winner should be in the Premier League. And that's something I've said before, and I think that should be, but let him go and win it first because it's a long way to go. I know it's only 2 games. But it's potentially up to 60 lads of darts or a little bit more. That is an awful lot of darts.
It is indeed. And then world rankings and whatever else come into it as well. Look, even if he wins this, I think he goes up to 24th. Still 16 places behind Danny Noppert in the rankings.
He goes up to 23rd. Just jumps above Merv if he wins it.
Yeah. Still plenty behind Danny Noppert. So we shall see. Right, let's look ahead then to tomorrow as if we haven't had enough fun as it is. And it's prediction time, Lee, because that went so well for us yesterday. Gary was 27th in the world and got picked before, but he had a back injury and was still winning titles and doing whatever else. Barney got picked in the 20s in his final year. It won't happen again.
Dob, I feel like Mr. Bars has been fishing with Darry Anderson tonight because he's taught a few from you. I'm not gonna lie, he's had you up, line and Simpton all night. He has really got you reeled in. But yeah, we move on to tomorrow night.
Aha, look what I did. Anyway, let's look.
But the worst bit is I could see you looking for the button. That's why I stopped.
Go away, Philip. Otherwise, I could have not done this show and you could have done some work for a change, man. Right, first game tomorrow night, race to 16. You know what time it is as well, by the way, guys. Get your predictions in. Boise, as you've made me host, you get to predict all of these first. You should have thought about that at the start of the night, shouldn't you, pal? First game, Alan Suter against Nathan Aspinall. Where are you going with that one?
The reason I let you be host is because Dan Simpson's borrowed me the staff. That's why I've got drinks being supplied for me after last night. He's hired me the staff and sent them down safe. I see this one being very, very tight. Suter's really impressed, not just on the stage, but in qualification. And you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for the shot. I'm going to go Alan Suter. That's off the line. 16-14 suits.
Nah. Aspinall wins 16-11 for me.
I see it being close. Asp is obviously the favourite. I just see the Dame being dragged into a battle, and probably not too dissimilar to
player in the top 8 or top 16. You probably then give the advantage to Suter if it does go to a battle. But of all the players prepared for a battle, Nathan Aspinall tops that list. It's literally what he's made a living of.
To back that up, Dob, is if that's close to 13 apiece or around that mark, Derwin Price wins tonight. But that didn't happen. So anything in that is happening in this Grand Slam. And I just think there's that level there from Suits at the moment. I do think he can get over the line against Asp, but the one thing I'm feeling fairly confident on is we'll see 28, 29 leads, if not a couple more. I do think it does really tight, but I do think Suits can just get over the line. The difference from tonight is where the Dames went so much one way and then flipped back and went the other. I don't think Suits and Asp will go that way. I wouldn't be surprised if the furthest someone's in front is probably 3 leads throughout, not the 5 or 6 that we've seen tonight, if not a few more. I do think it'll be tight throughout, but Suits, that's over the line.
Contrary to what you just said, I think if somebody does open up a big lead, I think it's more likely to be Asp. Or let's rephrase. If Aspinall opens up a big lead, Aspinall wins. I don't see Suter coming back at an Aspinall lead, but I do see Aspinall with that ability to go back at Suter.
Would you see Barney coming back at Price?
Shut up. No, lightning does not strike twice, Mr. Boys.
It does this week. Anything's happening at the Slam.
And if it does, I get to sit and discuss it with Cam tomorrow night. Do I still hate this best of 31 format after tonight's match? Look, we've produced and seen some very, very good darts over that distance. Brilliant. I just don't think it's needed. That game still would have been as good if it was race to 10 or race to 12. 16 or 17 or 18 is final distance for me, not quarter final, but don't make the rules. There's a format discussion ongoing with the PDC apparently about next year with the draw, and perhaps maybe they might look at cutting down a day or something as well, or saving a session so that semis a one night final just for one, and we can drop some of these ridiculously unnecessary legs. But Phil's shaking his head at me, so probably not. Let's just carry on and dig our head in the sand. On to the final quarterfinal of the Grand Slam 2022. Michael van Gerwen against Luke Humphreys. How did this one go?
From how they both performed last night, I see the level of MVG dropping slightly and Humphries increasing, but not enough to cause an upset. I think MVG gets over the line to about 11. One thing I do think in this one tomorrow, I think we'll see a 9. I think we will see the second 9 of the week tomorrow, and I think it'll be in the MVG Humphries down.
What's your score prediction? I'm going to fire some up on the screen now. Barzy. Shock was back Michael Van Gerwen. Imagine my surprise. It's a bit one-sided from Jamie.
16-11 to MVG.
Back in with Jack. I've got MVG too as well. Look, I know I said it about Gezi and this air of inevitability, but over this distance as well, it just takes something special to stop them. And we've seen that from Barney. Look, we're getting it a lot in this tournament. I just don't see it striking again and again and again. Luke would have to get out early, put him under pressure. If Luke's 7-3 up or something after the first 2 sessions, or I don't know, 9-6 at the third mini break or whatever it is, then big chance. But if it goes close, I just think Michael's just got this edge back to his game right now. It just means he just doesn't lose close ones. Not in this direction anyway.
And I also think, Dob, not that I don't think he'd admit it, but there's that extra motivation now that he's clear favourite to don't lift this title. Michael now, because of Peter Wright and Derwin Dowen, that will have changed the mindset. And if there's an extra bit of motivation that's needed, that he needs to clean up this field, that is certainly there now. And I think we'll see that from the start. And I do think, yes, it's overall on the format, but I think we'll see MVG fly out the blocks once more. So Luke Humphries needs to stay with him within those first 10 and 15. Even if it's 9 sits after 16, if MVG flies out the blocks, I think that will be okay for Humphries because he's then maintained it. But I do think we'll see a fast start from MVG, and that 9 will come quite early then.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Luke's inexperienced, but where these games are so long, if you do get a big comeback in a game before, it starts going on longer than you expected, or it's done sooner as well. I think Michael has been in every situation possible in the PDC. He will be ready for that start, whether he's sat waiting for one leg to be completed for 25 minutes, or it's dragged out, or it's soon. There is a chance that Luke might get caught out with that as well, with that early start, or whatever start in that one as well, when you wait for the game before. And I just think Michael will be ready out the blocks, especially the way he's played so far. So, prediction, Dan's Barney versus him. We're not predicting that. You can wait for that one tomorrow. But I did like your previous comment, Dan. And then what's my opinion on the format that reverts to Aspinall's hand signal?
We're not going to repeat that tonight. What scoreline are you going for, Dob?
Oh, good point. 16. I'm going to go 16-11 again. I think both are 16-11.
So you're topping me. Okay. That's fine.
Oh, dear. 16-12. I want absolutely nothing to do with you, Mr. Boyce, apart from the fact we have the same job. And with that, folks, we might as well wrap up the show. Thanks for watching this evening. We really do appreciate you joining us here on the Fallout Bar. Big thank you to everyone that makes this show happen, especially to our friends at BoyleSports for sponsoring all of our Grand Slam of Darts coverage. Full-length post-match press conference interviews are available on our YouTube channel right now. We just played you a small clip, so head over there once you've finished. The Modus Super Series is live on Sporty Stuff TV and the Modus Super Series YouTube channel. So if you want even more darts, head over there and catch some darting action as well. The second half of the quarterfinals will be played tomorrow evening from the Aldersley Leisure Village in Wolverhampton. We'll be back tomorrow night. Myself and Cam Farlane will bring you all the roundup from those two quarterfinals we've just sat here predicting. And then there'll be no show on Sunday, as we will be back on Monday night for the live lounge. We appreciate England are playing in the afternoon. Had they been in the evening, we probably would have moved it, but we're just going to get on with the show, get this Grand Slam reviewed, look ahead to the Players' Championship finals, and any other news that we'll have to discuss on Monday evening. So normal time slot for that one. Yes, Lee, you can smile all you like. We might have a fair bit to discuss at that point. I believe Phil's sitting down with the PDC, potentially with some news to come on that as well. get out my stream, Philip. Big thanks to everyone in the chat room for watching this evening. You guys are all stars. If you could just drop us a like on your way out, it really would help us as well. And with that, it's time to wrap up tonight's show. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you all again soon.